Welcome to the stories that shape our community. My name is Trevor Moore, and I'll be your host in this Southeast Alberta podcast series where we explore the importance of putting local first and the power positive impact has on shaping our communities. These episodes are about giving listeners a backstage pass as we explore the why behind these great local business stories. There's no one-size-fits-all approach in business, and these journeys are as unique as the people themselves. Our local guests will highlight the challenges, solutions, and philosophies they've employed to overcome adversity, showcase resilience, and have a positive and lasting impact in our community now and well into the future. Co-owner Paradise Valley Golf Course, Don Postnikoff, with us today. Super excited about this. Obviously, my background as a golf professional, rather intrigued by some of what's going on here. I look forward to getting into that late in the podcast today, but I really want to dive into some of the stuff about the story of this place. I mean, this coulee has been around forever. This business has been around forever. It's been a mainstay in the golfing community in our city. Tell us a little bit about Paradise Valley. Give us the mileage markers, if you will, sort of from your involvement to your purchase to here and how it sort of came about. And tell us a little bit about Paradise Valley.
Sounds good, I will. So yeah, not quite the Reader's Digest version, but going back, so Shorty and Pat Herringer, he actually sat up on one of these cliffs one day and he sort of, in his mind, envisioned a golf course here. So this was back in the early 80s. I believe 1982 was when they first opened the first 9 holes. And Pat and Shorty owned it for almost 25 years with their family. So a lot of people still remember Sherry McGrogan when she was down here managing it. And I actually went to school with one of their daughters, with Lorelei. So knew the family, knew Paradise, went to high school in Crescent Heights, and this was always sort of a home for me. So when they were looking to move on, Les and I bought it in 2008. So almost 15 years now. So we purchased the golf course, and it's just part of the community. And I say people they've either golfed here, they've worked here, their kids have worked here. Everybody has some kind of connection, it seems.
Night golfed here.
Exactly.
Partied here. Party. Yes, for sure. Yeah, it is a fixture in the community, right? It is this little hub, and by the very nature of the golf course, it's not your quote unquote stereotypical golf course.
No.
In that it's like, button up the shirt, the pleated shorts come out. It's a very family-friendly type of environment.
Yeah.
Take us through you and Les before you came here.
Oh.
I've always found this interesting because not golf.
Well, I was not golf.
You were not golf?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Les and I were in Calgary. We were in the corporate world, both IT actually. So we were kind of IT, management and executive positions at the time. But Les was a scratch golfer, and in his mind, he always, he was on the golf course a lot with work and a lot with pleasure. And so when we got tired of the rat race and looking for something different, and we both worked as consultants, so we were kind of entrepreneurs within the corporate world. So buying a business for us, it was just, managing different kind of people, different kind of business. And so, it gave us a chance to come back to Medicine Hat. Great community. The boys were 7 at the time, and our daughters were in their teen years. So it was a great place to come back and raise a family again. So it was just a natural, well, not quite natural. Our friends in Calgary really thought we'd gone off the deep end when we said we were selling everything, quitting our jobs, and moving to buy a golf course in Medicine Hat.
There's a lot of entrepreneurship is about, finding sort of transferable skill sets and finding the courage and the vision to be able to change and adapt and move and kind of grow. And take us through that. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there listening who's in a position, in a job, et cetera, with some entrepreneurial experience. What would you tell them if they're like, I would like to get into a business, I would like to start a business? What were some of the things that were really, really important and were really helpful for you?
Yeah. So you know what? That's a whole conversation in itself, and I love where you're taking it. So, you and I both coached a lot of people and mentored a lot of people, and going back to those decisions, I remember working in oil companies downtown and working in IT companies. And I remember I worked for a couple guys in particular, and one of them, he kept talking about, all I want to do is own a hardware store in a small town. And another guy wanted to fix cars, and they hated their jobs. They were, in their 30s kind of thing. They had money. It's like, quit, go do it. If you know what you want to do, then go do it, and you can always, you can fail, try again. You can always go back to your job. You can always go back to the big city. You can always, nothing's not everything anyway.
Yeah.
It changes.
You can fake it forward a little bit if you can. And it's important to do that. You're right. There's that, I see that all the time with people that are exploring entrepreneurship or exploring buying businesses. And it's really one of those, the biggest holdback is them. The biggest challenge is them. There's that sort of feeling like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I will. And how important is it?
What's the mindset, right? So
it is.
And so for me, my challenge was I didn't have that thing, and this goes back to people talk about finding your passion and do what you love. I didn't know what that was. I classified myself as a scanner, so I like doing a whole bunch of things, and which is why this place is perfect, right? Because we're doing a million things every day. But I love business. And so, from a personal perspective, I love to inspire people to try new experiences, to have the courage to take the leap, and if there's something that you want to do, just, think about what's the worst that can happen. So, I mean, we sold everything. We came down here. The worst thing that happens, you sell and you move back, or, you change your path.
You can adjust as you go. You can navigate as you go.
But you learn from it, right?
You can't. Let me ask you this question, yes or no. You can fail forward if you are intentional in your failure.
Yes.
As long as you've had a strategy and a plan that you can tweak, adjust, and go. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, although I'd say if you aren't intentional in your failure, as long as you look at that and learn from it, say what can I take from here and apply to the next position or next place or whatever,
and maybe not intentional in the failure, but intentional in the plan that led to the failure. You can tweak and adjust. I'm a big believer that you can always learn something from a situation as long as you've committed to the situation.
Exactly.
If you own the outcome, you can revise, you can tweak, you can move forward and find the next step forward.
Yeah.
If you kind of went in and you succeed, you don't know why you succeeded.
Yeah.
Or you fail, you don't know why you failed. If you had no intentional plan or strategy going in, it's hard to fail forward because it's just sort of blind luck.
Yeah.
You're tripping over yourself, not really failing forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So I love this. So you had this change of heart. You come in here and Les had this passion for this and you come to the golf course. Take us through what caught you off guard. And let's take both the positive and the negative spin on that.
Well, I mean, that applies to most entrepreneurs when they become an entrepreneur and have their own business, right? So staffing is always difficult.
Yeah.
So having a restaurant, if you're not a chef and you can't jump in, I mean, there was a lot of days in that first couple of years where we were popping over and turning on the gas ovens in the morning because the cook didn't wake up and forgot to settle his alarm. And, so there's those kind of things. You have to really be a man of all trades and be able to jump in and, well, you don't have to be, but for us, that was it wasn't unexpected, but it was one of the challenges. But at the same time, I mean, being here, of course, I would tell people I work every day. I work 18 hours every day, but I'm also on vacation every day.
Yeah.
And it's just that having your own, in charge of your own schedule, having control of your own time, that just goes a long way for any small business owner. Even if what you're doing isn't necessarily how you'd like to be spending your time, at least it's not because somebody else is telling you, what to do every day.
Absolutely, right? There's a lot to be said for that old statement where if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And there is some truth to it. By the other token, you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like, well, I love what I do, and it is work. And in a lot of cases, loving what you do actually does still mean it's work. It's just, I love what I do for a living and I'm happy. And I still have days where I don't want to go to work. And it has nothing to do with the job.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to go to the job. It's just like, we're humans. Sometimes we don't want to be there. And that's the advantage of being self-employed is that you can put in your time here to kind of go there. You can switch it back and forth a little bit and kind of.
Well, and the golf course here, people are surprised that we have 50 employees here, but we've got a lot of different, so we have a huge landscaping business. We've got a retail shop. We've got a golf course. We've got a restaurant. We've got an event center, and there's so many little details. Mm-hmm. And so as an owner, and I know Kim, so we haven't mentioned Kim Bronson yet. So Kim and her partner joined us, and Steve joined us 5 years ago now. And so they're shareholders now as well, and they're part of the team. But it's stressful, and there's all these details. And if you want to do it properly, and one of our staff came back this year and said, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here again because the other place was so disorganized." And so if you really want to run that kind of business, there's a lot of details.
There is, right? And so much of operating a successful business that can attract employees, but more importantly, retain employees, attract customers, and more importantly, retain customers is about creating culture.
Yep.
If the staff are not happy to be here, inevitably your customers won't be either.
Exactly.
How does that work for you? What is sort of some of the key things for you in terms of, building culture in a community like this, because this is a place that is,
Yeah.
this is where people are spending their free time.
Yeah.
This is one of those, it's got to be attractive to them. And it's not just about the golf.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We started a new branding campaign, with our new marketing and everything. And it's sort of this Paradise is concept. And Kim went to one of the staff members and said, what are some ideas of, Paradise is fun for everyone. Paradise is, and one of our staff members that's been here for, about 10 years, she said, Paradise is home, and that's our staff. Right.
Yep.
And so our staff are in our golf league, their kids work here. It's just a community. It really is.
It becomes generational.
Yeah. But in terms of how to create that, I think, as a business owner, you have to understand your own values. So our values are on family, on fun, on health and welfare. We care about employees. We want them to have fun.
Treat them like humans.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, life gets in the way sometimes, and you have to adapt to it, right?
Yep.
And that's important. Let's roll to a big piece that I want to tackle into today, and it really piggybacks on this idea of being a home.
Yeah.
Because I remember writing an article for the paper on this very topic when the floods rolled through.
Yeah.
There are 3 golf courses in this valley, and all 3 of them have had significant flooding issues, things beyond your control, things beyond, and first thing is, I do want to talk about it from a business side in a moment, but I remember standing at Cottonwood Coulee down the valley and standing across the bridge, seeing the bridge washed out, and a whole bunch of members standing on one side and just seeing the devastation on their face.
Mm-hmm.
And the devastation wasn't, because the conversation wasn't, it wasn't about the fact that are we going to play golf this year?
Right.
It was not about that. You could sense that their home was washed away. They was like, well, where do I go for breakfast with my people? Where do I go tell stories? Where do I watch the hockey game? Where do I have nachos on Tuesday evening? Like it was a home. And that was probably the most devastating thing I found to people, was not even that the golf wasn't the primary place. It was that it meant so much more to them, the golf. Did you find that same scenario?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It was, and not only that, just in terms of the people helping. So, I very clearly remember the day of the big flood in 2009. In fact, I think it was June 16th. And so, no, it was 2010, sorry. But the people that came out to help, sandbags were a little beyond us at that point. And of course, there were other people in the city needing help, but full hockey teams coming down, and between 10-year-old kids and adults and all our members, and everybody just wanted to help, right?
Yeah.
We had about 10 weeks that we were sledging and shoveling mud off of greens, and just everybody wanted to help out, right? So
yeah, that was one of the things I think in the whole, out of the ashes, so to speak, I think one of the things that as a member of Medicine Hat that I take away from that flood was the community. Yeah. Like it was astonishing to hear the stories and see the things that were happening. Yeah. And the people that were coming out to help, and the people that were just, there was times where people said, I'm not physically capable, but they brought sandwiches.
Yes, exactly.
For the people who were capable. And everybody was just willing to help. Yeah. And that's important. But I think that goes back so much to, you weren't just a golf course. There was clearly more to this. They understood that as a business, you were invested in the community, and not just, sponsorship checks for things, invested in the community. I know that you and Les have been involved in various, organizations and held positions in community organizations and chaired things. And you've been involved and you've been impactful. How important was that? Sometimes we don't realize the importance of that until you really start to realize how many people appreciate what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it comes back to you later and you're like, wow, thank you.
Yeah. Like people actually do know who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
I think it's important for a couple. Obviously, I'm a believer in giving to the community and supporting. A good example is marketing and advertising, that thing. Always looking at sponsoring teams and looking how you can make it a win-win for everybody, right? So you're supporting minor hockey, or Les was president of minor hockey for a while, and helping grow the community. And not from a business sense. That's just part of it was part of our culture, I guess, right? Going back to the culture.
Part of your belief system, right? And I want to touch on that because I find that sometimes a lot of newer entrepreneurs, and specifically younger ones, they're trying to get involved, but but there is a benefit on the back end and they almost feel guilty. And the reality is, you know what? It's your intention that matters.
Yeah.
Yes, it is okay to benefit from being a community member who contributes.
Right.
Don't feel bad about it.
Right.
It is just the natural recourse of being involved, of being engaged and being a caring member.
Well, and Medicine Hat, it's not the kind of community where people are part of Rotary in order to collect business cards. It's just not that kind of community.
Yeah.
And so I think we all benefit from that.
For sure. I think one of the things that, and this is a plug for the city of Medicine Hat in general. I think one of the things that fascinates me, obviously with my work in the event world, and you having your event facilities, you would see it as well. But I think the thing that I just marvel at in our community is that, the old 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the volunteer circle of Medicine Hat, it's like 2.
I was going to say 2 or 3 max.
Everybody's 1 or 2 phone calls away from calling in a favor.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And as long as you can be of service and be helpful and step in, people will be there for you.
One of the, so when we had the flood, our clubhouse, we had to rebuild the clubhouse, obviously. And I remember we had a freezer full of frozen food, for example. So, I mean, you're phoning, we phoned Brewmaster at the time. Throw it all in the back of the truck and off we go to the Brewmaster to throw all our food in the freezer, right? You just have to, and so going back to something you and I were talking about earlier in terms of dealing with the adversity.
Yep.
and dealing with sort of some of those difficult situations, being able to think creatively, think outside of the box a little bit, think about your community. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Because lots of times somebody else, they may not have the answer, but just even talking about it and brainstorming with somebody else, you'll have an aha moment and you'll think of somebody that can help out. So, I think that's a huge part of it, and just reaching out and
it is, right? I think one of my first mentors really tried to instill that in me, that at the end of the day, be rest assured that thing you're struggling with is a solved problem.
Yeah.
This is not unique.
Yes.
Somebody has done this before.
Yeah.
Don't spend your time stressing over a solved problem. Spend your time trying to find somebody who can help you understand the problem.
Well, and there's a book now, instead of who's your why, it's more a matter of your who, right? And so, and I don't remember the author offhand, but yeah, it is. It's like, who's going to help me with this problem, and who can I reach out to in the community? And oftentimes, like I say, they're not going to necessarily fix it for you, but they might just give you that little step up the ladder that you need.
It's hard to get comfortable with the creativity. I have a sign in my office, and I'm going to butcher the quote right now, and I can't even tell you what it's from because I think it says unknown, but it says, when nothing is known, everything is possible.
Right.
And I love that statement, because the unknown is terrifying as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But really, that is the seeds of all of the blessings and the great opportunities and the things that can move forward.
I'll give you an example. So Paradise Valley, for those of you who know, we've always been a walk-on course. So, and that was a really good thing, because you could wake up on a Saturday morning and say, hey, let's meet at 10 o'clock, and you go hit balls. And, when we came down here, and with Les, especially having a more serious golf background, we talked about, does it make sense to put tee times in? I was like, no, people will never accept that. They like following the guy in the red hat, and they will never accept tee times. Well, COVID hit. Now, all of a sudden, we were forced to take tee times.
Yep.
Everyone loves it. I mean, they wouldn't have loved it if we had just put it in place, and it wouldn't have worked without sort of being pushed into that.
Yep.
But now that they're used to it, and now that they didn't have that choice, they know exactly when they can tee off. They don't have to stand at the box for an hour and wait for the turn. And so sometimes, just looking at it a little bit differently and trying to not make assumptions. Maybe don't assume that people are all going to hate it.
Yes.
Maybe charging an extra $1, people aren't going to, lose their lunch.
I've seen that a million times in my 22 years as an entrepreneur. Using price as the simple example, every time I've raised my price, I thought it was the end of everything I knew.
Yeah.
And no one blinked.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Maybe I've been out thinking this for too long, or maybe I didn't believe in my value enough.
Yes.
And sometimes when you really look at, it's not just a tea time.
Yeah.
It's not just a tea time to these people.
Yeah.
There's more to what you provide, right?
Yeah.
And when you really start to see your value and the value that you provide people, price sort of becomes an irrelevant part of that puzzle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Again, the adversity of the equation. You talked about thriving under that adversity.
Yep.
And really sort of feeling, and that's an important skill set to have. That's a powerful skill set to have.
Yeah.
Not everybody could possess that out of the gates, or maybe it has to be nurtured. Tell me a little bit about that skill set in you. Where does that come from?
I'm a doer, right? So, and this comes back to, if you don't know what you're doing or don't know sort of what the next step is just action, right? So just start doing something. And I think that's where where I thrive is, someone will give me an idea and I don't really have it all mapped out. I don't know all the answers. I don't get into too much analysis. You just start making some phone calls, start working on your plan and your list, and it just comes together. So I think.
Yeah, thinking in motion.
Yeah.
I use an analogy with that a lot of times with people, and the idea that it doesn't matter how well you turn the wheel of your car to steer it. You can't steer it unless you're moving.
Yeah.
We need motion. So if you want to steer in motion.
Yeah, I think that's what stops a lot of entrepreneurs from getting started, right?
Yes.
Because if they don't do it perfect.
Yep.
And it's like having kids, right? I'm not ready. I don't have this and I don't have that. And I don't, just start.
Yep.
Start somewhere, and one step will lead to another.
I remember talking to a guy who was writing a book, and he had a mentor that was helping him. And I said, so what was the conversation like? He said, well, the first thing he said was, don't worry about the first book being good. Because it probably won't be.
Yeah.
You'll get better as you go. Just go. You will always at the end go, oh, that could have been done better. This could have been. That's a part of the process. But that's the beauty of entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, writing is a good analogy because I'm a writer as well, and that you say don't edit until you're done.
Yeah.
Like if you continue or trying to edit what you're doing at the same time, you'll never get to chapter 2, right?
Yeah.
So just get it all out there. Don't be afraid to fail the first time.
Fail fast, fail quick, fail cheap.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And then dust yourself off and do it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so much, right?
And learn from your mistakes. So I think you just need to have the courage to do that.
Well, you do. There's so much about feeling like you have to have it right. You have to have it perfect. And perfectionism really holds us back. And perfectionism is something that plays in a lot of us that have passion to some extent. There's a little bit of perfectionism there. Question is whether we can wrangle it into to sort of it be in control.
Yeah. And I think, not even perfectionism, but just worrying about what other people think.
Yes.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation, right?
Yeah.
But how often do we stop ourselves from moving forward and growing because we're worried about what people think?
Yeah.
I mean, if we worried about what people thought about us building this down at Paradise Valley, really down at, it's you just gotta go with your gut and keep moving forward.
You do, right? You have to find that way to move forward. And you know what? And one of the things that I learned years ago is that, the people that have done it successfully didn't do it without challenge and fear and doubt. They did it in spite of it.
Right.
They did it in spite of their fear, in spite of all it. They went forward. And 9 times out of 10, it's never as scary as we make it up in our own mind. I mean, the waiting and wondering always leads to worrying, and the mind goes in a million directions. It isn't actually going to go.
Yeah.
Right. It isn't going to go that way. Just get moving and get going.
Yeah.
And that's such an important piece, isn't it? To really get through that. I mean, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are struggling, and I guarantee there's going to be somebody listening who's like, well, I don't know if I am good enough. You are.
Yeah.
In 90% of the cases, you are. There's somebody out there less qualified than you that's doing this job right now, only because they've chose to do it scared.
Yes.
And you also don't need to jump in the game looking like the person who's done it for 20 years.
Yeah.
They've had 20 years of polishing to get there. They are not the person you are trying to chase.
Yes.
So let's go back. I'm going to put you on the spot on this question. I'm not sure if you can answer it or not, but we're going to see if we can. Rapid fire for a quick second. Flood comes in. You get a phone call.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you did?
Well, funny enough, Les was actually golfing in Saskatoon at the time. He was in a tournament, and I called him up and said that this was happening, and he continued to golf because he couldn't get back here in time anyway, right? Why leave a perfectly good tournament? No, I mean, that's a fun story. I watched.
Yeah.
Right? I just kind of sat back and just took stock of what the situation was, because what else could you do?
Yeah.
Right. And it took a while, and we just kind of slowly kind of took it all in and made a plan. When the porta potties came flowing down the river, you're thinking, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Go call the insurance company and see how the next, but I was actually pretty chill. I didn't panic.
I love that because I mean, I find that so often when people are challenged with things, what they're really missing is just a good, solid situational analysis of where they are.
Yeah.
They know where they want to get to, but they're not taking the patience and the time to really digest where they're at, because where you are matters, and that will help you plan forward. And that situational analysis is so important. And there's a lot of patience there. Sometimes you got to be patient and realize that the best action right now is actually inaction.
Well, and any business owner even if they're on their own, they're a leader as well.
Yep.
Right. And to be a leader when everybody else is looking to you, in terms of, do we panic? Do we, what do we do? The more you can kind of just have some calm and, like I say, look at the situation and figure it out and give them some confidence that you think you know what you're doing, or that you don't, but that's okay.
You're right. We look at the operation today. I mean, if you were to look, roll back a dozen years ago, this coulee has, the Nile flowing through it, river moving through it. You've got residents down here, buildings, clubhouses washed out, washrooms. The golf course is back on stable footing. The golf course is moving, but it looks nothing today like it did back then. You've evolved forward. You've grown from this. You've embraced. This isn't just a little golf course in the coulee all of a sudden.
Right.
Take us through this exciting new addition.
Well, yeah. A lot of this is just because we like to offer people a new experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to grow, like I say, when things get sort of comfortable, I get a little bored. So like, where can we take this next? What do we do next? And for a while we thought maybe selling was an option, but then we thought, but this is such a neat opportunity. And so when I saw a couple of the other Top Tracer ranges and I saw them in operation, I was like, yes, this is, we've got the exact demographic that is going to thrive. Medicine Hat is a perfect community. The fact that now, one of the challenges in Medicine Hat, and very well, of the golf business, is we get 18-degree days in February and they're gorgeous.
Yep.
And you can't do anything with them.
Yep.
Right. So now we have a facility that's year round. It's fun. It's fun for everyone. You don't have to be a serious golfer to have fun.
Yep.
And it was just a natural for me. So the challenge, however, was then, how do you do it? Where do you start? How do you get a partner? How do you fund it? How do you, and I think, again, that goes back to just reaching out and following your connections and believing in it enough and figuring out how to do it. Look at your options and make a plan, and you get turned down 100 times.
Yeah, you do.
You just keep knocking on doors and
when there's a vision and there's a passion and there's a plan and you've got the right people on board, you just keep moving forward one step at a time. You don't have to get it right away. You just need to get it right eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, one of the things about this, going back to community, is, you really have to think when you're going to grow your business. So a good example is restaurants, and they have a great restaurant, everyone loves them, and then they decide to expand.
Yeah.
Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for the customers? Do your numbers, are they going to work? Looking at all the different variables. So when we built this, we were thinking of the community, not just us, not just our current customers. We're looking at, not only even Medicine Hat, but Southeast Alberta. Is there something that we can offer that fits with what people are looking for right now and fits within our business? And can we help make that happen, right?
I love it. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Thank you for sharing some of your wisdom. I know that that's just important. And I really implore the people that are listening to this who are new into entrepreneurship, really, hanging on to some of the conversations we had about, not being afraid to ask for help. Surround yourself with people who can be supportive. Be an ear, help you, think your way through it, maybe strip away some of the emotion for you and just find that. But that's just such an important piece. And investing in the community and creating a culture or a home for both your staff and your community. I think those are just such great takeaways for us today. Yeah. And adversity is going to come. You take it as it comes. You sort of, collect yourself, take a situational analysis and just kind of deep breath and move forward.
Yep.
And that's what you've done here at Paradise Valley. Over all the years, you've done a lot of different things and had a lot of changes, and it's grown and it's continued to grow through these challenges. And that's just awesome. I look forward to seeing it here for many years to come in our business. Dawn, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jar.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Thank you to our podcast sponsor, the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce, who is fueling the business community in Southeast Alberta through connections, support, and influence. They're driven to shape our community. Their hope is that this podcast will help fuel you and your passion for supporting local first. To learn more about the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce or to watch more episodes of the stories that shape our community, please visit them online at medicinetchamber.com/stories that shape our community. In addition, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app so you don't miss any of the unique stories we share, the inspiring guests who share them, and the impact they have had in Southeast Alberta. Stories are all around us. We just need to connect and be able to share them. If you want to be featured on this podcast with a story of your business or organization, or if you know a story that should be shared, please submit a nomination through the Chamber website. Thanks again for watching and listening today. We look forward to sharing more stories with you that help shape our community. I'm Trevor Moore, the host of Stories That Shape Our Community, and I challenge you all, be sure to help shape our community through your very own story.